Today on Bridge City News, a former Humboldt Broncos player who was seriously injured in last year's fatal bus crash says he's heading back to Humboldt to try out for the team. Hundreds of thousands of pro-democracy protesters marched in Hong Kong today, marking the 7th weekend in a row for the demonstrations. And a UK physician recently fired for refusing to identify clients by their chosen gender instead of their biological sex is now suing the UK government. We will share his story.
Your nation, your province, your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News with Paul Arthur.
Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us. A former Humboldt Broncos player whose back was broken when the team's bus crashed last year says he is heading back to Humboldt to try for a spot on the team. Grayson Cameron's training regimen has included spending copious amounts of time with the trainers of the Calgary Flames, and he feels by the time Broncos camp starts in late August, he will be in the best shape of his life. The 20-year-old took an assistant coaching role last year with the Red Deer Midget AAA Optimist Chiefs, his former team before the Broncos. Some of those affected by last year's mass shooting in Toronto's Greektown gathered today near the site of the rampage to commemorate the victims. The violence on July 22, 2018 killed 18-year-old Reese Fallon and 10-year-old Juliana Kozis. 13 others were injured, some very seriously, and for their anniversary tomorrow, there will be a vigil at 8:51 p.m., the exact minute the shooting happened. The Montreal Police Major Crimes Unit is investigating the death of a 49-year-old man after a violent street brawl yesterday evening in the Villeray neighborhood. About 20 people were involved. Police found 2 injured people and say the man who died after being rushed to hospital had been wounded in the head by a sharp object. Another man who was hit several times by a blunt object is in non-life-threatening condition. The federal government is fighting an attempt by 2 veteran RCMP officers to launch a class action lawsuit against the force. Jeffrey Greenwood and Todd Gray's case involves bullying and intimidation of officers. Government lawyers argue the RCMP already has a comprehensive policy on harassment. The force has paid millions to settle class action lawsuits for discrimination, bullying, and harassment involving female officers from 1974 onwards. With 3 months until the next federal election, Green Party leader Elizabeth May says her big hope for the final result is a minority government. In fact, May thinks her party could influence minority Conservatives to drop their opposition to carbon taxes if it means the difference for them between governing or spending more time in opposition. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's former principal secretary is once again busy in the backroom. Gerald Butts is playing a key role in the party's election campaign after resigning in February at the height of the SNC Lavaland controversy. City officials in West Palm Beach, Florida, have been using extremely loud and annoying music to keep homeless people from sleeping overnight outside one of its civic buildings. The Waterfront Lake Pavilion is a banqueting venue that hosts weddings and other events, and there have been complaints of finding human feces and other unsanitary items around it. Critics say it unfairly discriminates against the less fortunate and vulnerable in society.
Cheese. It was, they called it a song. However, it wasn't a song. It was about 30 seconds, and it was played twice a minute, 120 times an hour, thousands of times a day, for the purpose of aggravating the heck out of anybody. Well, I know militarily you can't use such a tactic. It's considered immoral. It's considered illegal. I guarantee you this: you take that track that they were playing over there, take it out here to any penitentiary in the state of Florida and play it for 24 hours, and you'll have a riot like you've never seen.
Is there music still being played at night to drive away homeless people?
Yes, to drive away homeless, to discourage people from spending the night there at the pavilion. We knew it would be unacceptable, and it was detracting from the pleasant experience of those who had rented out the pavilion. So as a innovative solution, we thought it would be a good idea, and I still think it was a good idea, to play music, some annoying songs through the night to discourage people from spending the night in that particular defined geographical position.
British Defence Secretary Tobias Ellwood is making fresh calls for a de-escalation of tensions in the Persian Gulf. This comes after an audio recording was released of a British naval officer trying, but failing, to prevent Iranian forces from seizing a British-flagged ship in the Strait of Hormuz on Friday. The boat seizure is, however, proving to be popular in Iran. Politicians issued a joint statement today praising the interception by Iran's Revolutionary Guard, which has released video showing commandos in black ski masks and fatigues rappelling from a helicopter onto the vessel. Hundreds of thousands of pro-democracy protesters marched in Hong Kong today for the 7th weekend in a row, chanting "Free Hong Kong, Democracy Now." Some threw eggs at the liaison office, which represents China's central government, and spray-painted its surrounding surveillance cameras. Police dispersed the crowds with the use of rubber bullets and tear gas, but protesters say they will continue their demonstrations. Dr. David McCarthy, a British doctor, was recently fired for refusing to identify clients by their chosen gender instead of their biological sex. A physician with 26 years of experience, McCarthy is now suing the UK government and says it is something that goes against his conscience, both as a doctor and as a Bible-believing Christian.
First of all, there's the biological level. Nobody has ever, in my training and all my medical practice, say being qualified for more than 30 years, nobody has ever told me that it was wrong to use pronouns according to biological sex. This is just the way we use them, and it seems normal, it seems natural, it seems important to do that. That's biological. We don't, when a child's born, say, oh, well, it's got male genitalia, but we don't know what sex it is yet. I don't think parents would put up with that. I hope parents wouldn't put up with that. So there's the biological, but there's also the, there's the integrity of the medical profession. That what we're being asked to do now is so contrary to sound reason. I really do believe that a profession such as the medical profession, which depends upon its intellectual integrity, its academic rigor, cannot maintain that once it starts to embrace arguments which are contrary to reason, contrary to even the basic principles of logic. So big has this become that you can't just compartmentalize it to one part of medicine. So I can illustrate that in the following way. In 1967, when the Abortion Act came in, many Christian doctors moved to areas of medicine where they wouldn't be affected by that. And in many ways, that's what I've done. There are a few very brave, very courageous Christian doctors who stayed in those areas and they fought their case, and I thank God for them. But in this situation, there will be nowhere in any branch of medicine for doctors or nurses or anybody else, nowhere in any branch of medicine, and that's just medicine, not the other professions, where you can run from this. Either we are going to have to go along with this crazy way of thinking, or we're going to have to get out. And that's what concerns me. The medical profession's integrity. As a profession, we rely on our integrity. And we rely on our academic rigor and integrity. We don't rely on popular movements for what we do. And the third is ethical. It's quite simply dishonest to use pronouns in that way.
Recapping one of our top stories this hour, Grayson Cameron, a former Humboldt Broncos player who was seriously injured in last year's fatal bus crash, says he's heading back to Humboldt to try out for the team. And a look at weekend weather. It's looking like we finally get some summer-like temperatures coming our way. Clear skies overnight with a low near 8. Then tomorrow, sunshine with a mercury hitting 31 degrees. Human rights cases these days can get a bit strange. Lawyer John Carpe is defending a number of aestheticians in BC who refused to wax a transgendered individual with male genitalia based on religious grounds. That interview was next. But first, here's a look at what's happening in and around your community.
Here's your Bridge City News community calendar. The Willow Creek Gospel Music Jamboree is taking place July 26th to the 28th in Granham, Alberta. Come out and enjoy live gospel music by the Liberty Quartet, Rosette, Prairie Joe, the Fort Macleod Alliance Worship Group, and more. For details, visit gospelmusicjamboree.com. Looking for a fun summer activity for your kids? Roar is a vacation Bible school taking place July 29th to August 2nd from 9 a.m. to noon at the Lutheran Church of the Good Shepherd in Lethbridge for ages 4 to 11 at no cost. To register, visit LutheranChurchOfTheGoodShepherd.com or call 403-328-3445. Gem of the West Museum in Coaldale is hosting an open house on Heritage Day, August 5th, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Take in ice cream making, crafts for the kids, a scavenger hunt, and more. It's fun for the whole family, and admission is by donation. For details, visit gemofthewest.ca. And that's your Bridge City News Community Calendar.